All right, ladies, listen up. This one's for you. Fellas, take some notes. Picture this. You've been dating a guy for years, and it's the day that you've been dreaming of your entire life. You're pretty sure he's going to propose. He goes to the dream spot, maybe a little something like this. It's on the coast. It's a beautiful fall day. There's a chill in the air. You have a quite small ripple on the water. Everything is perfect. He brings the picnic lunch, and he has the blanket set out, and man, he even went the extra mile. He got a Bible engraved with your new name on it. And then the moment comes. You know what's happening. He gets down on his knee, and he looks and he gazes into your eyes, and then he reaches into his pocket, and he realizes he forgot the ring. All right, listen, all of those other things at that moment don't matter. If he forgets the ring, the whole thing is done. Ladies, you are crazy if you just responded and said, I don't really care about the ring, I just love him. No, you don't. You want the ring, you want the bling, you want it on your finger, right? You can do everything else right, but if you forget the most important thing, you've missed it. We do that with life. We take secondary things and we make them primary. That's why I love what the Apostle Paul says in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 2. I determined to know nothing among you but Christ and Him crucified. Now, some of you are thinking right now, if the Apostle Paul was my youth pastor, he would be the most boring youth pastor on the planet. All he ever talked about was how to get saved, not how to make wise choices with a cool graphic design, or how to date properly. Who should I date? Who can I date? When can I date? Is it okay for my dad to intimidate my date? None of that? No, actually, the Apostle Paul talked a lot about life. You can't get away from the books of Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, and Colossians, 1st and 2nd Corinthians. You can't get away from those books without reading about how to make wise choices, how to tame the tongue. He talked about how to live in relationship with your parents and with your friends. He talked a lot about secondary things. But the thing that Paul talked about over and over and over again was that the gospel is what gave him the power to make those things happen. He didn't put the emphasis on the secondary things. He put the emphasis on the primary thing. The cross always dominated the conversation for the Apostle Paul. Charles Spurgeon, an old preacher, once said it like this. In every sermon that he used to preach, he would always plow a trough back to the gospel. What that meant was he understood that no matter if it was living with friends, taming your tongue, or doing all of those other things like the Apostle Paul talked about, it was always the power of the gospel that gave people the ability to live it out. That's the beauty of the gospel. It is the power behind all of our daily living. Let's flesh this out for just a second. Sometimes when we read the Bible or we hear sermons, we walk away with this: you stink, try harder. We think more about the way that Christians should behave, music they should be listening to or shouldn't be listening to, things they should wear or shouldn't wear. You think more, leaving more with this idea of, I have to do more and be better. Another way that we do this is by the whole idea of action steps. Here's 10 steps to being a better person, 5 steps to being a godly friend. Those are great, but when we leave thinking about our own personal steps, we always fall short. Our steps will always fall short. But when we marinate on the truth and the beauty of the millions of steps that Christ took to come to us, that's when gospel transformation happens. Let me give you a quick filter from a guy by the name of D. Martin Lloyd-Jones. When you're reading the Bible or when you hear a sermon, he said this: the goal of a lecture is information. The goal of a motivational speech is to leave with action steps. But the goal of a sermon is worship. Whenever you approach the Word in your reading, you're not just looking for the secondary things, how you should behave, or the things that you should do or not do. What you're looking for is a greater glimpse of the glory and awe of God. What really changes us, what really transforms our hearts and our minds, is not the doing, it's the being. When you see the beauty, the awe, the wonder, and the glory of God, that is when real gospel change begins to happen.